Well, I must admit that I am totally giving the game away here. Normally when I go live on Facebook every Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m., or at least as is practicable, I like to wave something around in front of the camera, do a little bit of teaser, see if you guys can guess who's behind the object, before revealing myself and getting on with the business at hand. Well, tonight's object does indeed give the game away completely. There is now no doubt that the man behind the curtain is the man on the curtain, and that is me, Malcolm Tent, bringing you this week's episode of Tent Talks Tunes. Yes! Good to be back in the proverbial saddle here. I was not on the air last week. I was in real heavy-duty hectic mode, trying to get things ready for the Danbury Record and CD Expo. So busy that I didn't even have time to do a little preemptive post saying, sorry guys, I won't be on the air. I'm sure y'all guessed that I was not on the air, but with no prior warning, so I'm sorry about that. But last week was definitely the full court press right around this time. So yeah, I hopped in the car, got up to Danbury, and had myself a really, really good time for about a week, traveling around, doing the record show, seeing the peeps, listening to the pops, and doing what had to be done in the name of capitalism. Because it's always been my job to kill capitalism with kindness. Yes. Let's reach on over here in my typical fashion. I'm going to zoom right in on the camera and give you a really good close-up of the top half of my head so that I might leer, gaze, gurn, stare at my desktop computer, which is where the monitor is, to make sure I am indeed going out live. And so I can see everybody's comments. There we go. We got some comments. We got Alan Versapellis, who, as usual, is number one. First one in the house. And Mike, my good pal from Vancouver, British Columbia, who sent me a very cool video of records being pressed today. He described it as the Zen video of the day. And I must say, it was very Zen. Everything in the video was very clean and very shiny. There was flow, the flow of the vinyl being extruded from the press, the spraying of the metal on the lacquer. If you're a record geek, freak, nerd, such as myself, it was a very relaxing and wonderful video. And maybe, Mike, if you're in the mood, you could post a link to that video, because I'm sure that our fellow Tents Talks tuners would probably get a kick out of it. What the heck? Bob Eaton from Brookfield, Connecticut. Hello, Bob. Good to see you here on Tent Talks Tunes. We are indeed live on the air, and I got my jug of hickory tap. I did indeed refill many, many, many jugs, such as this, with good old-fashioned mercury-laced Danbury tap, but they're all out in the car. I haven't unpacked them yet, so we're going homegrown with this jug right here, right now, and you know what? It's one of the many pauses that refresh. So, a toast to all of you, my loyal fans, frantic viewers, and vivacious listeners. I just normally get more alliterative than that, but hey, what can I tell you? Sometimes the synapses get scrambled. Speaking of scrambled, the man who is not scrambled at all and is laying peacefully at my feet, just purring away. I don't know if you can hear him. I can hear him loud and clear. I don't know if you guys can, but we do have Harry the cat is in the studio live, but he's out of sight. Definitely not out of mind. Should I reach down and grab him and disturb him from his reverie and have him make an appearance? Do we want to disturb the rest of Harry the cat? Let's find out. I'll let you guys dictate the course of the action here. If y'all want to see Harry the cat, I will grab him and gently hoist him up on my lap and make his presence known. And of course, this is when I have to click the refresh button, because one thing I've learned is that with this new internet service I've got, I'm not always able to see your comments live as they pop up. So it's kind of hard to keep a gauge on what everybody's saying and thinking and wanting and doing out there. Okay, I see that Mike did indeed post a link. Thank you, Mike, for that. And Mike wants to know if Harry has a southern purr. Yeah, so his drawl has gotten way heavier since he's lived here. Almost a year now. It's been a solid 10 plus months now that I've been a resident of North Kakalaka, and I must say that I like it quite a bit. Like it quite a bit. He is just laying there so peacefully. I don't think I'm going to disturb him. I'm going to just let him, I'm going to let the sleeping cat lie, such as it were. Yeah, he's doing okay down there. So, yeah, we got a lot going on here. Let's first address the bulletin board. 2 stellar events coming up, and I guess before I get into that, I should talk about the event that recently happened, the aforementioned Danbury Record and CD Expo. It was a great success, really good turnout, lots of cool, fun people. Dealers were happy, customers were happy, I was happy, so everybody happy, and well worth the many miles that I drove in my trusty wagon to get up there and back, along with the other stops I made on the way, which we'll talk about in due time. So yes, thanks to everybody who came out. It was ravishing. That was the past. Here's the future. Anti-Scene has got a pair of shows coming up in just a few weeks. December 5th at Reggie's in Wilmington, North Carolina. It is Anti-Scene. Yes, I'm the guy who wears his own sweatshirt. Anti-Scene with our good pal Kelsey Ray Copeland playing some authentic, slow and sweet country music. You might think, well, that's a rather unlikely pairing. A sweet-voiced, angelic country crooner along with a bunch of thugs and reprobates like Anti-Scene? Maybe so. Maybe not. The key is, we have the bands that we like to have on bills that we promote. And we ran into Ms. Copeland at a gig in Alabama a little more than a year ago, and she was great. She blew everybody away. So now she's coming up here to the Carolinas to guest with us, and, well, it was going to be the Street Clones. This is proof that you can't believe everything you read. Our pals, the Street Clones, were supposed to be on the bill, but they had to cancel. We're very sad about that. And John Bridges of the Street Clones actually gave me the name of the band who's replacing them on the bill. And core blimey, I did not write it down, and I don't have an updated flyer. So Anti-Scene, Kelsey Ray Copeland, and not the Street Clones, but somebody else we hope, we think, we wish, equally as good. It's a tall order, because the Street Clones rock righteously. Take 2. Come to the show anyway. Because at bare minimum, 2 out of 3 ain't going to be bad. But I predict that 3 out of 3 is going to be awesome. The next night, at Anti-Scene's Charlotte, North Carolina headquarters, the world-famous Milestone, one of the, if not the longest-lived independent venues in the country, certainly the longest-lived one in the Southeast, the Milestone, celebrating its 53rd, 54th anniversary, right around that time. Anti-Scene, Kelsey Ray Copeland, and Jason Moss and the Hosses. If you like your country music outlaw-styled, hard-hitting, and driving with really, really good lyrics, Jason Moss and the Hosses are going to float your boat. Never seen them live, but I have a copy of their album in my car, even as we speak. And it rocks. So I'm very much looking forward to that. That is one that I can predict with all confidence will be a 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, get out of here, we just knocked you senseless sort of gig. Right on. And there are other events coming up in the year 2026. I'll just mention that we are playing a special celebration for Abdullah the Butcher. Oh my God, Abdullah the Butcher, a wrestler who I hated hated more than any other. I hated Abdullah the Butcher more than Ox Baker. I hated him more than Ernie Ladd. I hated him more than the Masked Assassin. I hated him more than anybody. Anybody. Name him. Ivan Koloff. Hated him more than Ivan Koloff. Hated him more than Bob Roop. That says a lot, because I hated all those guys, you know? Gee whiz. Never, ever, ever would I have dreamed that the day would come when Abdullah the Butcher would actually want to come to one of our shows and turn that into a working relationship where we've got some really good plans for Anti-Scene and Abdullah the Butcher coming up. I'm not at liberty to discuss any of them, and I don't know all the specifics yet of the gig in January, but it's going to be in Atlanta, and we are very, very excited, not to mention thrilled and honored to be playing a show for the great Abdullah the Butcher. So keep your eyes, ears, and other receptory organs open for more information about that. Yes, do it. And I'll take a little swig of this Volta, or whatever it is they're drawing off the faucet here in Hickory. All right. Now, not only is it time to check the mailbox, it's time to get on with this week's episode of 10 Talks Tunes, because the entire episode does indeed center around ye old mailbox. Oh, yes. I really wasn't expecting that, but I got a lot of mail this week, or I should say over the last 2 weeks. I was gone for a week, came back and found a pleasantly stuffed mailbox, including items mostly that I was not expecting at all. So in case you're wondering, that is the very P.O. box where the swag landed, P.O. Box 173, Newton, North Carolina, 28658. If you want to join the crowd, if you want to be a conformist to a crowd that's to a cause that's worth conforming to, please, by all means, grab a pen and something to write on and send it to P.O. Box 173, Newton, North Carolina, 28658, because let's be honest, waiting for something to land in the mailbox is probably the highlight of my entire day. And you don't want to let an old man down now, do you? No, you do not. And when you see some of the cool things that I have gotten in the mail lately, you will absolutely want to contribute to that. And just a sort of a sidetrack, I picked up the latest printing of the Malcolm Tent comic book while I was in Connecticut. I have a print shop up there, Southbury Printing, run by my good friend Fred. Fred is an artist when it comes to printing, and I have all of my big print jobs done there, including this, the 4th edition of the Malcolm Tent comic book. This is one of many things that I enjoy stuffing into envelopes and sticking into boxes when people send me things. I got comic books, posters, stickers, all kinds of random stuff. You should see there's an entire shelf over there of gimme, gimme, gimmies that I enjoy sending to people because, you know, I'm a child of the 80s. I remember the days of tape trading and zine swapping and pen pals, and I just love the physical objects. So I was really stoked to make another run of these, just to send out to people who need a little quid pro quo. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? Now you do. Anyway, P.O. Box 173, Newton, North Carolina, 28658. Just today, we're going to start with a package that I was expecting, which does not make it any less special because I already know what's in this. I know exactly what's in here, and I am really flipping my wig with anticipation, waiting to see the contents. This is from mi amigo Jonathan Delgado in España. Jonathan fabricó un edición en español de el libro TPOS, My Adventures with GG Allin, con Len Colby. In other words, this dude in Spain, Jonathan Delgado, made a Spanish edition of the book I published entitled My Misadventures with GG Allin. And he sent me a few copies. They arrived in the mail, and here they are. I really exerted a lot of self-discipline in not tearing the package open right then and there in the Newton post office. Figured I'd wait and share it with you guys, because opening packages live on the Facebook with all of my friends out there is a lot of fun. It's like having Christmas every Wednesday or so. So why don't we do this? Let's take the 2-mile box cutter. Don't worry, it's not threatening. It's here to open packages. And we're going to very gently slide the blade, adding another, looks like about 7 inches of cut time on it. Working its way to the 3rd mile, 1 inch at a time. We had to retire the million-mile scissors because they finally broke. Now, Jonathan has done a lot of stuff in Spain. He licensed a Spain-only Best of Anti-Scene album for release in Spain. He also licensed a Spanish pressing of the original Anti-Scene and GG Allin album called Murder Junkies. And now he's done this book. This book was a long time coming, and I've talked about it on 10 Talks Tunes, although not lately. It's a book written by a guy named Len Colby. Len was GG Allin's videographer, roadie, hangout pal, t-shirt maker, general factotum between 1986 and almost 1993. And Len finally got around to writing his book, My Misadventures with GG Allin. Ooh, look at that bunch of swag just fell out of there. Oh my God. See, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Stickers, a bookmark. Mr. Delgado, he knows what makes collecting fun. Genuine note, sticker. This is great. We love this. So anyway, I lost track of where I was, other than to say that Len wrote the book. I published it here in the U.S. on my imprint, TPOS. And unfortunately, Len died. He died very unexpectedly and very suddenly before he could ever see the final book. But one of his specific wishes, something he expressed to me many times, was that he wanted international editions to come out. He wanted the book to be translated. He was talking about Italian, Japanese. I'm sure Spanish came up at some point in the conversation. And now, here it is, the official Spanish language edition of My Misadventures with GG Allin. You might wonder, well, it doesn't look any different than the English edition, other than the addition of Mr. Delgado's logo on the back. But this is where we can see what a quality product this is. You open it up, and there's an actual flap with translations. GG Allin crea adeptos GG Allin crea adeptos y detractores. La indiferencia no es posible. Pardon my pidgin Spanish. But yes, it's a hype. It's in Spanish. And the entire contents of the book translated into Spanish. This is really exciting. And I don't know where you can get this other than here's the label. Oops, I should have thrown that on the ground. Los 80s pasan factura. That's Jonathan's label. So you might be able to look that up. We've talked about doing an Amazon edition of the Spanish language book. I'm sure that's going to happen somewhere down the line. But in the meantime, if you're interested, look up this label, drop them a line, and maybe you can get yourself one of these very beautifully done Spanish language versions of My Misadventures with GG Allin. Jonathan, gracias, mi amigo. Gracias, muchas, muchas. Es muy linda, muy bien. So good. See, that's the fun thing about running a label, is you get to do projects like this. You know, it probably goes without saying that I'm a lifelong collector and archivist and appreciator of not just music, but the objects relating to music. You know, records, tapes, CDs, books, posters, flyers, set lists, photos, anything relating to the creation and presentation of music. I love it. I love it all. So it's another one of those deals where I never dreamed that I would get to grow up and do it for at least part of my living, but seeing projects like this actualized, very satisfying, very much part of the thrill of getting to run a label and see things like this come to life. Really cool. Yes. So, now we get into the mystery part of the mail opening. These are 3 packages I don't know what contain. Don't know if that sentence was grammatically correct, but we'll just let it slide. I'm going to give you guys a real close-up of my dome for a second and hit the refresh button so I can catch the comments. Yeah, comments are coming in. You know, this is just so unwieldy. I do this a couple of times every episode, and I just decide, you know what? I'm going to check the comments later after I sign off. Just a lot easier to do it that way. But trust me, if I could see your comments live, I would be reacting with you guys. I see the aforementioned John Bridges is tuned in, Adam Zister, my pal from Georgia, Dan from Southern California. Greetings all. Let's see what could possibly be in this next package. We might be able to guess. It's from my good friend Food Fortunata in Saginaw, Michigan. Food is a longtime member of the great noise band Sockeye. He's the guy who publishes Ear of Corn magazine, which I'm always delighted to open up live on Tent Talks Tunes. And this time he sent me a package that is not overtly or obviously a magazine. Kind of seems like there might be some CD action in here. I don't know. Let's find out. We're going to add another 5 inches or so to the 2-mile box cutter in our continuing effort to make it a 3-mile box cutter. Opening it very carefully so as not to sever an artery or anything like that. Although Harry would probably love it. He is after a carnivore. Loves the taste of fresh blood. That's one reason why he's an indoor cat now. I got so tired of cleaning up. Never mind, you don't want to know. If you're as squeamish as I am, believe me, you don't want to know. We're opening this. It is indeed a CD. What is it? What is it? Ooh, okay. God's Punk Volume 27. A compilation put up by Food Fortunata. Ooh. This has got Jethro and the Capricorns, the Large Veiny Members, Howl and the Typewriter, the Proud Fuku Band, Government Alpha, Awkward Geisha, Mutant Beatniks, Torturing Nurse, Infected Youth, Father Stone, Nil by Nose, Pawgasm, The Poops, Ear Eyes, and Unit. And it's got, this is a double CD. Ooh, look at that. Volume 27 is a double CD. Too much noise and too much music for one disc to handle. Nice looking package. Looks great. How many songs are on this thing? 41 songs total. That's frightening. Food Fortunata, thank you for this. Now the challenge is up to me to figure out what I can send you in return. Well, we already know. We know you're getting a Malcolm Tent comic book for sure. I think I've got some CD goodies I can send your way. I'm going to brainstorm that a little bit. In other words, Food, if you're watching, keep an eye on your mailbox. Now, speaking of John Bridges, who's tuned in right now, John Bridges sent me a box from the extremely hot and humid city of Wilmington, North Carolina. This is another one where I know what it is, but I don't know what it is because I haven't seen it either. I've heard it talked about online, but I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it sounds like. once again, carefully open it. Ooh, I see the rumors just might be true. Oh, look at this. It has happened. It is official. The clone has landed. The Street Clones full-length LP is right here in my hands. I don't know if the name of it is Color Me, but it does say, Color Me. Get out your markers, get out your crayons, get out your colored pencils, whatever it takes. Turn this black and white work of art into a full Technicolor work of art, and do it while you're grooving to the teenage rockin' sounds of the Street Clones. And while you're at it, stick a couple of stickers on your desk. I have not heard this, but I already know it's great. I know it. I know it's great. Let's see. Ooh, 3 different colors. We got lime green, we got purple, and we got pink. Now, how many of these songs do I know? Born Wrong, I know that one. Black Cypress Grove, that came out on a 45 a long time ago, and it's a great song. Like, seriously, great song. Revenge of the Fuckwits, that's a classic Street Clones live song. And, you know, I don't recognize a lot of these titles, which is good, because I love hearing new stuff. Really, really cool. John Bridges, thank you very much for these albums. We've already worked out the deal. I'm going to send you something in return. It'll happen before the end of the week. Watch for it. Oh, yes. And then the 4th piece of mail. This is a real mystery. I don't know what this is, but it's from my label boss, Dennis Hyland, in the great city of Mobile, Alabama. And it's a box. It's kind of a large one. And I was not expecting this. I had no prior warning of the arrival of this box. But Dennis, besides running Jackhammer Music USA, which is the American branch of our Japanese label, not only being the guitar player for Future Hate, which is another one of those bands that we really, really like to share the stage with because they rock, Dennis is very good at sending random packages. And he was actually one of the original Thrift Shop in a Box guys, along with my pal Adam Zister, sending unknown, unasked for, completely random boxes of swag for the specific purpose of unboxing live on Tent Talks Tunes. So, out comes the box cutter. This is very auspicious. We are now going to add 36 inches to the cutting total of the 2-mile box cutter. That mile number 3 is coming up way fast. So let us open this very carefully, very slowly. I've noticed the last time that Dennis sent me a package like this, it was all kinds of wacky, wild, wonderful records, and he had them packed in a very specific order. There was a thematic flow to the records, and I thought that was a real hoot. So I'm going to do the exact same thing with this box. I'm going to open it from the top and look at everything as I find it. So the packing material goes out. Well, it's kind of random. Don't think it matters what order. I'm just going to reach in and start grabbing stuff. I see a whole bunch of, check this out, 8-track tapes. Oh, yes. If there's a vinyl that's a vinyl, if there's a format that is even remotely as cool as vinyl, it is the almighty 8-track tape. And here's one. This is great. Look at the cover art on that. I love, love, love these generic truck stop counterfeit 8-tracks that were so prevalent in the 60s and 70s. Here's one of the Guess Who. Judging by the track listing, it's of their early stuff when they were more of a garage band up in Canada. And it's got one genuine bona fide classic on there, a song called Clock on the Wall, which is one of the great garage songs of all time. If you guys want to look it up, the Guess Who, Clock on the Wall. And that could be, judging by my newfound love for the Guess Who, there's probably some real good stuff on this as well. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I'm late to the Guess Who party, and I'm totally blown away by how good they are. I randomly found a Guess Who Greatest Hits CD at a thrift shop somewhere. It was like $1. So, of course, I dropped the buck on it and was really pleasantly surprised by how good it was. These guys could write, they could play, and they could sing. So I was talking to Mike Lesser, who is in Canada right now, about my newfound love for these guys. And he gave me some suggestions about albums to check out. And now, lo and behold, here we have a wonderful vintage truck stop counterfeit. Greatest hits of the early Guess Who. Dennis, you got me pegged, man. Pegged, I'm telling you. Whew. I better take a sip of water here. What other kind of wacky 8-tracks do we have here? Okay, Red Wing. This is a group I've never heard of. They're on the Fantasy Records label. Fantasy, of course, being best known for Creedence Clearwater Revival. They also released the timeless Charlie Brown Christmas soundtrack by the Vince Guaraldi Trio. A lot of good jazz stuff on the Fantasy label. But here's Red Wing, 4 very dour-looking, somewhat hairy fellows. I know nothing about these guys. Songs called The Underground Railway, Shorty Go Home, Oh Maggie, Don't Lift the Weight. That's a cryptic title. Bonnie Bones, Street Walking Lady, Hogtied. These guys are up to something. They look kind of benign, but I think they might be malicious. All right, Dennis, I'm intrigued. Really intrigued. Oh, here's another one from the same label that brought you the truck stop counterfeit of the Guess Who. Here's one of Brian Auger. What great portraiture this label had in their startlingly accurate depictions of Randy Bachman and now Brian Auger. This apparently is Jimmy Page meets Brian Auger on the Gambit 8-track label. What a gambit it is. The portrait alone is worth the price of admission. What else do we have here on 8-track? Oh, here's a good one. You already know this rocks. We already know this one rocks. Slade. Oh, yeah. I need explain nothing about Slade. And I see a very interesting packaging note that Dennis pointed out, which is pretty cool. Don't know if you guys can see this, but on the song titles, all of the S's are backwards. Now that's the kind of attention to detail you normally don't find on an 8-track. 8-tracks were typically slapped together and thrown on the marketplace with very, very little consideration of the graphics. But here's one where they actually... oh yeah, look at that. The ends are backwards as well. Not only on the box, but on the spine. That's pretty cool. That's really neat. You just don't see that kind of attention to detail on an 8-track usually. Very, very neat. Still sealed, as all of these 8-tracks have been so far. Oh, here's a classic. A classic. The RCA in-house 8-track label. I pirated this artwork myself to make a TPOS generic 8-track box. But this is the original right here on RCA. Look at those happy people. At work, at play, they've always got an RCA 8-track in their hand. And this is by, the Savage Rose. Oh my gosh. With a name like that, you can be sure that you got to proceed with caution. These guys don't look like Savage Roses. But, according to these guys, the waters run deep, the poorest man on earth, listen to this tune from Mexico, Tapiola, your daily gift. I don't know, sounds more like an easy listening sort of cassette, / 8-track / whatever. I don't know. We'll just have to find out, won't we? Excuse me. All right, here we've got another one. Oh, God, look at that. Another Another one of those beautiful portraits of the recording artist on the album. That's Dr. John, in case you didn't know. I was in the right place, but it must have been the wrong time. Now, this is not a counterfeit, though. This is an actual budget line release on the Power Pack label. Power Pack was sort of like Pickwick. They could license any old, washed-up, dead-ass, half-remembered tracks by some popular artist and give them a reissue. And these things were almost always from the very, very early days of the artist's career, when they looked nothing and sounded nothing like they did when they got famous. Put a contemporary sort of rendition on the front. I guess that looks like Dr. John. I don't know if I'd bet money on it, but yeah, I'm sure Dr. John under the bright lights. What the heck? And repackage the early stuff under somewhat deceptive bends. And so here we have a classic example of a Power Pack 8-track featuring very, very early Dr. John's stuff entitled The Night Tripper at His Best. Well, all they have to say is, well, it is his best. We think it's his best. What a great use of weasel words. Who's going to say it's not his best? Probably everybody who bought the dang 8-track. Here we go. This is, yes, okay. Fresh out of Borstal. This one is a real cutout bin, dollar bin stuffer. You see these things everywhere. It's hard to imagine how many of these things must have actually sold for them to be such ubiquitous presences in all the dollar boxes. Can't get away from these things. This is basically a fake skinhead group. A completely manufactured 1970s skinhead group. And let's see some of these song titles here. Fighting, spitting, kicking woman. And the boys lazed on the veranda. You made me what I am. Hit and run. Shift the blame. Borstal. Borstal being the UK equivalent of juvie. Yes, fresh out of juvie. Fresh out of Borstal. And it's very funny because there was a second album by Fresh, which had absolutely nothing to do with these three guys, who apparently actually were the guys in the band. They actually were a band of some sort. But when the masterminds behind Fresh decided it was time for a second album, they just got rid of these guys and made an album of entirely anonymous studio musicians doing really anonymous studio music. I recently purchased the second album, and I guess Dennis is really paying attention to 10 Talks Tunes to know this. I bought the second album, and it was as generic and nondescript and boring and as uninteresting as any record I've ever heard in all my born days. So the question is, even with song titles like Fighting, Spitting, Kicking Woman, is this as bad? I might find out someday. Don't know if I'm brave enough, but I might find out someday. And then here, oh boy, if we were doing 8 tracks, we got to do Beta. Here's a Betamax tape. Oh yes, Runaway. Now this is, as Dennis's note says, for the Kiss completist, or a birthday present for the one and only Mad Brother Ward. Oh yes. I don't know if I should give away the secret, but it's kind of there on the back. If you focus in hard enough on the characters on the back, this guy right here especially, that one right there, a guy who wanted very badly to be an actor and ended up being an actor very badly. His birth name was Chaim Witz. Chaim Witz later anglicized his name to Gene Klein. And, well, if you don't know the rest of the story, give Paul Harvey a call and find out. But yes, for the Kiss completist, Runaway on Beta, no less. Woo! That is really for the completist. That's about as arcane as you can possibly get. Check it out. Beta. Authentic beta videotape. It's been said, and I've heard my entire life, that beta was superior to VHS. I've watched a few beta tapes in my day, and I've found no evidence to support that. Come on, beta haters. Rally around me. Beta lovers, make your case. But it is cool as a format, beyond any shadow of a doubt. Tom Selleck in Runaway. And I see one more thing. Oh, this is pretty cool. Yeah, I never had one of these. This is a record that I never had. And it always kind of saddened me, even though this record was released long after I left the great, that's Grate, the great state of Florida. I've been out of town for a few years when this record came out, but this is a whole bunch of my compadres from Florida. George Machine Gun Kelly on the bass. Hurricane Andrew Powell on the drums. Buddha on guitar. Paul Lee Guns. I don't think I ever knew Paul Lee Guns, but if he's hanging out with Andy Powell and George Kelly and Buddha, he must have been a cool guy. They had a band called the Stun Guns, and the Stun Guns completely, utterly rock. To use that analogy, to use that descriptor twice in one episode of Tent Talks Tunes, Stun Guns kick butt. And I've never owned this record, so now I do. Dennis, thank you for this. Really appreciate it. Oh, look at that. Look at that classic indie label DIY big hole layout. Oh, yes. Fantastic. This will be getting a lot of time on the Malcolm Tent turntable, starting later tonight. And, you know, I'm in the business of buying and selling records. It's how I pay for all of Harry's cat food. I always draw your attention to my Discogs, my eBay, my Bandcamp. Because, you know, a man's got to eat. And the way I got to eat is by selling records. I love flipping records. But this one right here is in the not for sale column. This is the personal collection column. Dennis, you've enriched me. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And that was a lot of fun opening the mail. Yeah. Constant thrill of discovery. I love it. I love it. I love it. Mail is one thing. Shopping for records in the real life, in the real world, in the real multiverse is something else entirely. As you might have heard me mention before, when I take long trips, as the one I just made to the Danbury Record and CD Expo, I like to make a real action-packed, event-filled trip out of it. My modus operandus is to get out a good old paper map and trace a route between here and there, see what cities are basically on the route, and try to find record stores in those cities. And then I load my vehicle up with TPOS merchandise, records, tapes, and nowadays CDs, and hit the road to these record stores and try to sell some stuff, try to trade some stuff, press the flesh, keep my oar in the water, whatever analogy you want to use. And it's really, really a blast. I, as you know, used to own a brick and mortar record store. I did that for 21 years. You can take the record store away from the boy, but you can't take the boy away from the record store. So I love hanging out at the record stores and talking to the people who run them and the people who work there, sometimes the customers, and doing some good old-fashioned wheeling and dealing and horse trading and money making, let's be honest. So I found a few goodies on my most recent trip. I'm going to tell you all about them right here. The first one is not a record. Not a record. Not a record in the slightest bit. But A book. Yes, a book. Circling right back around to my love of print media and physical objects, I was visiting Disc and Dat Records in Bethel, Connecticut. My friends John and Dennis run it. My pal James works there. And we did a little bit of wholesale action, and I saw that they had some books. And I decided that I needed this one right here. It's called Moon by Tony Fletcher, and it's all about Keith Moon, the drummer of The Who. And, Keith Moon, the absolutely insane madcap Moon the Loon, the inventor of hotel room destruction and setting off M80s at fancy parties and driving cars into swimming pools and all that. We already know about the wild antics of Keith Moon. In fact, I tried to read the book entitled Moon the Loon, which was written by one of his minders. And it's one of those very few books that I couldn't get through. I got about a third of the way through it, and I just put it down and walked away from it. Because it was just page after page after page after page of Keith Moon's wild antics. And it got really boring after a while. It's like, how many times do you need to read about him flushing firecrackers down the toilet and blowing up the plumbing of a hotel? How many TVs do you need to read about being thrown out of a hotel window? It just really, it was dull. It didn't offer any insight whatsoever into the personality of the guy, or more importantly, why he had to act like such a dumbass all the time. Because he was nonstop 24/7. So I saw this book and I checked out the heft of it. This thing's got like 600 pages to it. Let's get an exact page count, shall we? Sorry, not 600. 608. 608 pages about the life of Keith Moon. So you figure there's got to be some kind of insight into who this guy actually was and what his motivation was. And so far, I have not been disappointed. Within the very first couple of chapters, the author posits very convincingly that Keith Moon, well, you know what? I shouldn't be the spoiler. If anybody wants to read this, you'll find out. So far, it's been really good. I'm about 65, 66 pages into it, and it's been quite rewarding. Finally, a little bit of insight into the life and psyche of Keith Moon, who, besides being a total dumbass 24 hours a day, was one of the most thrilling, phenomenal drummers ever. And I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. I've said so many times, if I could go back and attend just one concert, just one, I would go back in time to Woodstock and watch The Who from stage left, right next to Pete Townsend, with a full view of Keith Moon. That is the one. There's video shot from that exact vantage point, and I can watch it over and over and over again and get goosebumps. It is a rush watching those two guys specifically, and Daltrey and Entwistle, of course, also, but Townsend and Moon just going full throttle, nonstop hurricane of noise and melody and rage and just barely controlled chaos. To have experienced that live, can't even imagine. So yes, when the time machine finally gets invented and they perfect the location function of it, I'm going back to Woodstock, to that time when The Who blew all the hippies clean out of the water. Oh, yeah. There's a shop in Martinsville, and I can never get this right. Is it Martinsville or Martinsburg? I think it's Martinsburg, Virginia, called Wonder Skate. My compadre Tony runs the place. It's a really cool record store, skateboard shop, and musical gear depot. I always get my brows on when I'm there. And I usually walk out with some stuff. The first thing I walked out was an actual, honest-to-God, free fanzine. Dead Possum. He had these by the cash register. He was giving them away. And that just took me right back to the glory days, the golden days, the salad years of punk rock when the zine was royalty. And I just was tickled to see an honest-to-gosh zine. And it was a freebie, and it's, you know, very artistic. It's only like, I think, 8 pages long, maybe 12. Lots of great collage art and just stuff you can look at and hold in your hand. I think this is fantastic. This is very much when I try to emulate. When I did I lose it already? Well, I showed you guys the Malcolm Tent comic book earlier. That's what I try to emulate when I do things like the Malcolm Tent comic book. It's a total salute to the zine. So I was very happy to get that at Wonder Skates. I also at Wonder Skates got this record, which I didn't even know I needed because I didn't even know it existed. I knew this was out as a streaming album and downloadable or whatever it is you kids do these days. But I really had no idea that there was a full-fledged, full-on vinyl pressing of this mofo right here. Lothar and the Hand People, a live album from 1969 called Machines. Lothar and the Hand People are one of those bands who never got the recognition they deserved. They were a really, really great, wacky, quirky, intelligent, and really skilled band from the late 60s. They were pioneers in electronics. They wrote great songs. They had a song called Ha Ho, which was stolen by the Residents. They called it the Laughing Song. Flipper, in turn, stole the Laughing Song and called their song Ha Ha Ha. So if you want to hear the direct lineage of a Flipper song, check out the Laughing Song by the Residents, and then Ha Ho by Lothar and the Hand People. And then play Flipper's Ha Ha Ha, and you'll see exactly where it came from. Great stuff. Really good live recording. I've only heard a couple of songs off of it. I've never heard the whole thing. But these are one of these bands I've just always been really, really into and very fond of. And they only did 2 studio albums when they were around. So this posthumous live release, also on tasty blue vinyl, was a welcome surprise. Very cool. Unexpected. And that's the beauty of doing brick and mortar record shopping. You walk into a record store and you just don't know what you're going to find. You 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 don't know what you're going to find. No matter how you say it, I speak the truth. Oh, yes. Very cool. That's also not for sale. Now, something else I found. This was really cool. This was at Admiral Analog's Audio Assortment, run by my comrade in arms, Andrew. And that is in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. And Andrew, the Admiral of Analog, and I always do really good business. He's got exquisite taste in music, which is proved by his frequent and generous purchases of TPOS wholesale product. And as usual, he threw $1 total at me. I said, Andrew, don't give me the money, because if you give me the money, I'm just going to make a bank deposit with it. Let me get my brows on first. Let me see what you got. What is in here that I really need to have? Kind of a tall order because I am the man who has everything. The punchline being that I'm the man who has everything until I found something that I didn't have or didn't even know existed. And this is one of those things that was always on the want list. A very obscure one-time only pressing of a Gun Club album called Mother Berlin. Now, what might Mother Berlin be? Well, if you're a Gun Club fan like I am, and an aficionado of the Gun Club mastermind Jeffrey Lee Pierce, you might appreciate this. Gun Club, The album Mother Juno came out in 1987, I believe, and it was the big comeback album for the Gun Club. An album chock full of great tunes, completely, in my opinion, destroyed by the production. It was produced by a guy named Robin Guthrie. Robin Guthrie was the mastermind behind the Cocteau Twins. And if you've ever heard the Cocteau Twins, you know what their sound is like. It's very lush. It's very orchestral. It's very, if you know what I'm saying, it's very wet. It's very ethereal. It's very, I don't know. What more can you use to, what other words can you use to describe the Cocteau Twins besides those? It doesn't rock. Cocteau Twins are great. I love them, but they don't rock. So the problem with Mother Juno is that Robin Guthrie produced it like he would a Cocteau Twins record. He took all of these great, totally red-hot songs, as only the Gun Club can do them, and turned them into basically Cocteau Twins songs. The production is very lush, very dreamy, very ethereal, very wet. He found this one extremely non-hard-hitting drum sound and stuck with it for the whole album. So it's like all these really great punch-you-in-the-face Gun Club songs just dying to be heard and not being heard because of the production. Well, Mother Berlin is a tape that somebody found in the estate of Jeffrey Lee Pierce, consisting of all the, I believe, rough mixes or works in progress from Mother Juno that do not have the Robin Guthrie production on them. And I heard a few excerpts from this. I found out there was a YouTube video or something. And the first time I heard it, was like my ears perked up. I was like, this is what the Mother Juno songs are supposed to sound like. This is what I've been wanting to hear this whole time. And so I just sort of filed it in the back of my mind that there was this album. And sure enough, Admiral Analog had it. In Shepherdsville, Shepherdstown, Shepherdsburg, whatever. Shepherds something or other, West Virginia. Immediately went into the take-home pile, where it resides comfortably to this very day. And I haven't dropped the needle on this one yet, but you know I'm going to do that real soon with the volume up, as in up. As in, sorry neighbors. Malcolm Tent's got to do what he's got to do. 38 years I've been waiting to hear these songs the way they're supposed to be. Little sidetrack, I did see the Gun Club on that tour. And the way they played those songs were it was definitely closer to the way that the album should have sounded. But I'm going to risk heresy here and say that the Gun Club were never the strongest live band in the world. Interesting, moving maybe. Jeffrey Lee was always fascinating, but Gun Club, from the one time I saw them and from the many, many live tapes I've collected over the years and videos I've watched, they just were not a phenomenal live band. They were very hit or miss. And even when they hit, it's just not quite as impactful as their best recorded studio albums. So, very happy to hear Mother Berlin. And there's a few other things I found. This is one I've been looking for a while. Pardon me while I wet my whistle. You guys have heard me wax rhapsodic many, many, many times about my love for sleazy, cheesy, cash-in, exploito albums from the early 60s on great labels like Pickwick and Grand Prix and Palace and Sound Design. So many of them. Cheap, quickly made knockoffs of whatever was current or popular at the moment, to be sold at bargain basement rock bottom prices at drugstores, dime stores, gas stations, the local pharmacy, like whatever. Well, it's a fact that Lou Reed worked for the king of the exploitation labels, Pickwick Records, and finally somebody compiled all, I'll say almost all, they left a few off, but most of Lou Reed's work for Pickwick. It's a double album, colored vinyl, got a really nice booklet with it. And the stuff ranges from the almost sublime to the definitely ridiculous. It's great. It's great. There's not a whole lot of stuff on here I would go back and listen to over and over and over again. But there's probably about like 1.5 sides of genuinely good music or genuinely absurd, off-the-chain, ridiculous music, which, you know, is what I love. So this has been out for a while. The price tag on it was always very steep, but I found a really good couple of cheap priced copies at the great Red Scroll Records of Wallingford, Connecticut. And we did a little deal. I ended up with 3 of these, one that I kept for myself, and I have 2 factory sealed original copies, which I will be listing on Discogs very soon. Or if you really want one, let me know. I'll make you a deal. The only caveat is the covers got kind of dinged up. They're not horribly destroyed. They're not, you know, ugly or stained, but they're a little bit bent. Hence the bargain price. But the vinyl's perfect. The vinyl is perfectly clean. Sounds great. Fantastic quality pressing. And if you are into the history of Lou Reed or the Velvet Underground, or just love the sleazy, cheesy, cash-in exploited records like I do, you need this one. Even if you don't get it from me, look for it. It's dynamite. Talk to me, people. Talk to me. I found 2 more records, and I'm going to get out of your hair and get into my groove. The Midnight Special by Harry Belafonte. Why is this record interesting? Because it is the first ever appearance on vinyl by a singer-songwriter harmonica player named Bob Dylan. Yes, even before Bob Dylan put out his first record, he guested on this Harry Belafonte record. And Harry Belafonte is probably the biggest selling artist of his era. If not the biggest, one of them. So, you know, it was obviously a, you know, corporate bought and paid for example of product placement, you know, in an effort to break this guy Bob Dylan and generate some buzz before his first album came out. But hey, that's what the industry is founded on, right? But Bob Dylan plays on one song. He gets a credit. Don't know if it did any good for his career or not, but it's definitely really interesting. And kind of cool if you're a Bob Dylan fan like I am. Yeah, found that. Like it. And the last thing I found, oh yes, this is something that Pissy Chrissy and I, TPOS recording artist Pissy Chrissy and I have kind of bonded over recently. And that is our love for some of the really bad Elvis soundtracks. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, you better believe it. But during the 60s, reduced to churning out really, really bad movies with equally lousy soundtracks. And you can take a look at the aesthetic of these things. If you look, and I don't know, once again, I don't know if my camera can really reveal the horror of this back cover. But yes, that's Elvis, or I should say a cutout of Elvis pasted very inappropriately on the deck of a sailboat holding a guitar. If you look at it in person, up close and personal, you can see just how bad it is and how dumb it is. But that's what Elvis was reduced to in the 60s. And this has got some really, like, genuinely, like, fantastic, rotten, lousy Elvis songs. This has Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce. That song is dumb. Wolf Call, very bad. Big thumbs down. But of course, that's why it gets a thumbs up, because it's so bad. And perhaps, oh, actually, Do Not Disturb is on there. Another real lousy stinkeroo. Perhaps the worst song in the entire Elvis Presley catalog. Although that can be argued, it can't be denied that the immortal, or maybe it's too mortal, the immortal once in a lifetime, thank God, song by Elvis Presley. I'll point it out to you right there. Do the Clam. Yes, Do the Clam is on the Girl Happy soundtrack. So you get 3, maybe 4 of the single worst Elvis Presley songs ever on one soundtrack album. So this was a real score for me at the Danbury Record and CD Expo. I do have a copy of this already in my personal collection. As is my very strange habit, I'm going to compare the two. And whichever copy is in worse condition, I'm going to keep for myself. The one that's in better condition, I'm going to put on the marketplace. So if you guys ever wanted to own a copy of a genuinely, hey, here's Harry, genuinely hilariously bad Elvis Presley soundtrack album, talk to me. I'll be very happy to share my magnificent obsession with you. And speaking of magnificent obsessions, I'm almost done, but not until I do take the cat by the horns. He's back. He's bad. He's nationwide. And here he is, Harry the cat. Harry's got to make an appearance. And now here he is. The one-eared wonder, Mr. Snaggletooth himself, recording star of TPOS Records on cassette, CD, and 8-track. Yes, Harry the cat. He's saying hi to you guys. Hi. Hello. Hey. Actually, he's saying goodbye. Bye. Bye. Harry's on my lap, and I'm done talking. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, as always. It is my job and my joy and my pleasure, and definitely not my pain, to come on here and do Talks Tunes with you as close to every single week as I can possibly muster up. Lord willing and the creeks don't rise, I'll be back in 167 hours' time. So until we meet again, this is Malcontent saying so long from the Tar Heel State.